and welcome everybody to our Come Learn With Us session on best common operational practices for maintenance notifications. So I would like to introduce you to Todd Parker and Ryan Gunter, and I'm going to hand over to Todd, who's going to give a brief introduction and then take us through the rest of the presentation. Once we're done with the presentation, we will go into Q&A and hopefully have some discussion and feedback from the attendees. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Todd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. My name's Todd Parker. I manage global provisioning at Twitch, and Amazon is our parent company. This project, there was a draft that was written probably about 4 years ago by Randy Niels and some other folks in the industry, and it was a really cool draft. It basically said we need to automate maintenance notifications because it's really manually intensive right now, and people make mistakes. So when I started with Twitch, I was on call with a team of engineers who we had to manage all the maintenances, and back then we probably still got 1,000 to 2,000 maintenances a year, and we had to read them and we had to put them inside of a calendar, and sometimes we made mistakes. If you fast forward a little bit, that document kind of got bounced around to different people, and it never really took off. No one was really driving it. It was just a really good idea that was presented at NANOG probably a few times. So I picked up the project, and I recruited Ryan, who's on the call, and Sushil from Twitch, who was on the call. And what we did was we just been talking to the industry for the last couple, 2-3 years, trying to get this this automation adopted, and we've had some pretty good luck. Present day, we have about 17 vendors, mostly lit capacity vendors, some dark fiber providers, some co-location providers. And we have pretty recently just started talking to the IX exchanges because quite frankly, we get emails that maybe a subnet's going to change or there's going to be some work on a switch. And we thought it was important to try to receive iCals from the IX community. So like I mentioned, we have about 17 vendors globally that are sending iCal, or we're in like a beta test where we're going to see iCals from them, in the next quarter or two. And we're talking to many vendors and providers. So Amazon partnered with us probably over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and they saw the value because quite frankly, if Twitch gets 5,000 maintenances in a year, Amazon's they may be getting 50, 60, 70,000 maintenance. So they saw a great value in this as far as not having to put so many resources in front of all those maintenances and figuring out what circuits and what was impacting their network. So we've partnered with them, and we're making pretty good progress. And that's kind of where we're at. We're just trying to get this adopted throughout the industry, and whether or not it's lit capacity, dark fiber, a co-location provider, or an IX, we're just trying to reach as many people as we can, have a standard adoption, and try to automate this this manual process. So there's my intro. I think I can hand over to Ryan, who will do a pretty short presentation, and we can go from there. Thank you.
So Todd is very practiced and does great intros for this. So hopefully it's a pretty good primer. But yeah, basically what Todd was talking about in the beginning was, part of the problem with this, with getting maintenance notifications, is just the massive volume of them. We get several thousand a year. So even bigger companies like Amazon are getting, 5 figures worth at least. And, all of those have to be looked at by a human, and they have to decide what they want to do with those. So the parsing of these is mistake prone and takes a lot of man hours. We actually calculated ourselves, and we're surprised, how long that would take. But the main problem with these maintenance certifications is that they're extremely difficult to automate because of the format being so inconsistent between every provider. It's really hard to do HTML parsing or whatever for every single provider that you peer with. So this solution that Todd mentioned was using an iCal file and in this iCal file, there's these properties which are called xMainteNote. And this is a legal thing via the RFC to use these X fields. So what was proposed was to use these X fields for pertinent information to the maintenance event. It makes things a lot easier to automate and for machines to parse. But also as a bonus, the iCal file works like any other one. You can click it or have Outlook add it to a calendar or whatever, but it's really nice for places that don't have automation. They can just don't have to worry about scheduling anything manually. So for us, this is an example use case I thought I would talk about. So we would ingest an iCal file and we have an internal calendar. So once that iCal file is parsed, we put it in this internal calendar. And at the time of the event, we have a system that prepares that circuit for going down. So it drains the traffic, stops all alerts, stuff like that. The calendar is also responsive to new information that comes in. So if there's an iCal file that comes in with that same maintenance ID, then it will look at that information and determine if the time has changed or a circuit ID's changed or if it was canceled or completed or whatever the case is. When the maintenance is actually over, then we perform some health checks and we put that circuit back in production. So this is what the iCal file looks like if you were to open it in a text editor. It's exactly the same as any other iCal file except for these main xMainteNote fields. So those fields are the provider. So that would be Zayo or Telia or whatever the case is. The account is the account that's actually being maintained. So that would say in this example would say Twitch maybe. The maintenance ID is actually the circuit ID being worked. The maintenance ID is exactly what it says. It's just what the provider calls this particular maintenance. The object IDs are the circuit IDs that are actually being impacted. The impact is also self-explanatory. And then the status is also self-explanatory. So there's a few different statuses that, like, tentative means this might take place, confirmed means it is going to take place, stuff like that. So there's a couple of notes about automation. So a lot of questions we get are, why don't we use APIs? And that's a fair question. But the reason we don't like to use those is because it's very difficult to manage a lot of different vendors. So we might have, if everyone used a separate API, then we would have 30 or 40 APIs to manage and to work with and maintain. And email allows for one single source of ingest. And that way it's much easier to retrieve that data. Also, there's an open source library for this work that I haven't used a lot personally, but I know it does work for both parsing and creating these iCal files. And it's a Python library. So I think these numbers have changed a little bit, but right now, at least as far as this slide is concerned, we have 11 transport providers and 2 data center providers, and we have a lot more that are committed or working with beta or in beta testing right now with us. And currently, we're advocated by obviously AWS and Twitch, but also Netflix is interested in seeing this move forward. So we don't have a website or anything yet, but there is a Facebook group if you'd like to get more information. And then just here's Todd and I's emails if you have any questions or comments. So yeah, that's basically it. Really short, but I appreciate you guys listening.
Okay, thank you, Ryan and Todd. So that is the end of the presentation. So the idea now is to kind of, if you like, sit back, put your cameras on so we can see you all, and let's discuss. I'd like to hear from the attendees, the participants, your views, any questions, feedback.
Well, it's Vincent from Beat6. I only can tell that it's about time. I work also for Sys11 and for B6, and even in medium-sized content provider and carrier networks, it's getting a problem. So at the moment, we are reworking our notifications ourselves to just also make a start, and this is basically what we need right now. So having a format to comply to, it's the start. So we should get all the IXPs, or as many as we can, to comply to such a standard, so that everyone else capable and in the need of automation, of monitoring, notifications, calendar stuff is even possible, because parsing unstructured data from emails like a nightmare, so not really possible. So I really welcome this in general, and yeah, we should also, as soon as we have a feeling that it's mature enough, we should push it more into other NOCs as well, because these are quite good multipliers for that. So yeah, that's basically my suggestion. And of course, there will be discussions about specific fields, because as soon as this hits engineers, we all know what happens. Some want like 100 fields, some others maybe want to have 1 or 2 dozen fields. But as soon as it will be an open and flexible standard, so it can be adjusted to certain needs and only has to contain certain fields to make certain decisions in automation scripts, it will be fine, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback.
Thanks, Vincent. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think I can pitch in here as well. Kai from BKIX as well, and also working for Akamai during my main job. For both things, I think it's really useful. I've been following this for quite a few years, and I hope it really picks up now. We had a brief look earlier about which vendors are already supporting it, and the first are already starting to implement it. So it's really nice to see. I think for the IX world, we just need to work out a little bit how that gets integrated, especially because it's quite unusual that we have like a circuit ID or something. It's normally like your peer IP is something we would probably put in instead of a circuit ID in, and then probably just start every IP that's specified and doesn't have a circuit ID, just put that into the circuit ID field, and then you have at least a programmatic way, just get the data out of it and do stuff with it on your routers, or at least just see what is affected, because I think that's from most of the approaches that I've seen when we talked about standardizing these maintenance notices, it was always like that. Some people, or especially huge carriers, they always look for that circuit ID somewhere, but with an internet exchange, that's really something no one or only the minority does, and it's mostly just your peer IP is what you use, and I think that would be good to just see how that actually develops in the real world once it gets used. But I think even without it, just to say, here's a maintenance and it gets automatically added to a calendar is already a big step forward for most people to just see is when something goes down, just look in the calendar and see if something is going on, and not like dig through mails in weird data formats to find out, did I miss a maintenance or something, or did I forget scheduling it? So yeah.
There's multiple options for circuit IDs, or object IDs within the iCal file. So using an IP address is fine to do that. But yeah, you'll see in the draft that there's multiple options. So that is a possibility, just to plop the IP in there for each person being affected.
Thanks, Kai. Okay, so let's try this a different way. Is there anyone here that feels that they could potentially have this implemented by the end of the year? Sorry, I know that's a very straightforward question, but hands up.
Hey guys, this is Jan there.
Oh, hi Jan, sorry.
Hey, good morning, good evening. Hey Todd, Ryan.
Hello.
Thanks for the presentation. Very cool. Just wanted to let you know, just for the context for everyone there, we've had the discussion with Ryan and Todd, a few weeks ago already. It was in the context of PeeringDB, and try to understand if there is a role for PeeringDB with regard to that, and if we can, again, as PeeringDB, if we can help make that not more useful, but more used to democratize that proposal. So we're still bouncing ideas around, Todd and Ryan, within the team. So we've not forgotten about you. I just wanted to let you know that we're still trying to figure out if there is a role for PeeringDB, or if that's the right place to do something with regard to that. From the personal and from a network operator standpoint, I'm 100% convinced that's the right thing to do. And so keep doing it. It's more like can PeeringDB help somehow, and if so, what it would look like, or something like that, right? So this is where we stand.
Really appreciate it, Jan. We've had a couple of good conversations, so looking forward to continuing that for sure. We would definitely like if PeeringDB can help. Yeah, thank you.
So just to add, I'm on Nipper from DKIX, but also from PeeringDB. Yes, the idea that we want to have information about maintenance, Ms. Roral, we are thinking about that in PeeringDB since longer. And then we came across this activity at IETF, and we think it's we would like to use this structured format. I guess the big advantage PeeringDB has is that we can store the information about the maintenances, and we have a powerful and easy API to retrieve this information, so that you not necessarily have to use the email, but are able to, for example, retrieve all the maintenances from a certain IX or from a certain network via our API. I guess this is really the big advantage PeeringDB can give. And if we combine it with the structured information via the ICS file, this would benefit both, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I know we had the similar conversation with Jan, and while we try to we're steering away from APIs and go with email, I think in some of these particular instances with PeeringDB, it could be potentially useful, just because of the availability and how good and easy the PeeringDB API is to work with. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to having more conversations about that for sure.
I mean, even without APIs, and we could even also imagine PeeringDB as a small advertising factor to actually show that a certain provider supports this format and use it as a standard to announce maintenances, because first step for automation is that as many suppliers are using the standard as possible, and you could indicate that in the PeeringDB entry, which of course would not make a huge effect, but you could indicate that you comply to that standard. And for some, it may be interested to see that in the PeeringDB entry.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. If we can help, if there is a role for PeeringDB there, that's something we're really
that's already happening with an indicator. If you would like to see your prefixes via the route servers on the IXP, so it's simple information, and you can respect it, ask PeeringDB on a certain provider, or you don't. You are not forced to, but yeah, it's just would be, I guess, simple thing to do.
Yeah, we just to add, we already have an issue open where we want to enable networks on also internet exchanges to show that they are compliant to XYZ, for example, that they are menace compliant, and also that they are using XYZ. So that was nicely fit also in this category then.
Yeah, you can even expand that to certain RFC and BOCPs regarding traffic engineering and stuff. So why not? because especially on some steering stuff, it's the same issue for everyone. If you want to have specific information about traffic engineering from one carrier, it may differ from another one. And if we have this central point of information, yeah.
Perfect.
I think I'm just looking for a tool, which I think seems to be gone again from the internet. In the early stage, there was like an easy generator website, basically, where you can click the information or paste it in and generate a compliant iCal file, basically. I'm not sure if that's still around or if that is something that might make sense to build it, because like bigger networks that plan these maintenance, they might be able to just, yeah, basically render that file out of a script. But for a smaller provider, it might be really interesting to also say we want to use this, but before people start taking out the text editor and trying to type together a compliant file with all the right syntax, it might be easier to just have like a small website where you can like select with the calendar, start, end date, put some information in it, and afterwards you can basically download a file that you can just attach to your email that you're sending to your member mailing list or something. Maybe that's something that would make adoption easier for smaller IXPs, because you don't really, when you write that email that might be still handcrafted or not coming from a tool, you can just create a file with the correct syntax and attach it to it, and that way people can use it. Maybe that's something to consider.
Okay, thank you, Kai. Anyone else? I see Andrew has left a comment in the chat. He says, I like the idea of centralization of this on something like PeeringDB that would ease adoption. I see somebody, Tobias has his hand up.
Yes, just a second. Hi, everyone. Sorry for the late hands up. At first, I want to say that I agree to everything that was said by the other speakers here. And especially I want to say thank you for the initiative to starting this. Actually, I had it already on my to-do list to look into this because I saw some development on GitHub. Honestly, I didn't have the time yet to look deeply into it. I downloaded the PDF recently. I'm not fully read through it, but I like the idea very much because with more and more partners we work, you don't have a standard on how they send maintenances to you. And sometimes it can be very complicated reading that information when you get it. And it's sometimes hard to process, for example, if someone uses other labels for different circuits than you use. And then you always have that to do the translation between these two systems of notifications. And it's very error prone, and accidents can happen very easily. And we would get completely rid of that by using that standard. So I think there is a very big value in this. I cannot say how fast we could implement this. We have within our automation suite a feature built in. It's the announcement generator, which basically does automation on maintenances for us. It's a feature that still needs some updates. It's not perfect, but thinking about how I could combine this with the given information. If I could pass something into the generator and it does automatically do all the rest, that would free up a lot of time that is manually spent at the moment. And in the same time, we would reduce the error rate drastically. So I see a lot of benefits in this, and I will definitely look deeper into it and see how I can combine it with our systems and where I can connect it. So thanks for the initiative again. It's really much appreciated. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your Zoom background, by the way. But yeah, I mean, any questions that you have or anything that we can do to help, more than happy to. So just send us an email or we can meet anytime you'd like. So more than happy to help you out.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tobias. Thank you, Todd and Ryan, for your time. Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you have any questions, or if you think of something after this session, like Todd and Ryan have said, please feel free to email them. So it's Todd@twitch.tv and Ryan@twitch.tv. If you do want to, thank you, in the chat now as well. If you want to contact them, or if you have any questions or anything else. So with that, thank you everyone once again, and I'll hopefully see you all soon. Thank you.